Welcome to the Title IV Part A, Subpart 1, Student Support and Academic Enrichment, LEA Random Validation Training for October 2021. I am Lenitra Guess, Program Director for Title IV Part A programs in the Federal Program Compliance Division. The random validation for 2021 through 2022 will request documentation for one selected program requirement. However, a district must ensure it has documentation on file for all Title IV program requirements. This presentation will provide a brief overview of the program purpose, the indicator that will be validated, and will share information regarding the description of Title IV Part A funded programs and activities validation indicator and the documentation which must be submitted to TEA. The Title IV Part A grants are designed to improve the academic achievement of all students by increasing the capacity of LEAs, schools, and communities to provide all students with access to a well-rounded education, improve school conditions for a safe and healthy student learning environment, and improve technology for the enhancement of academic outcomes and digital literacy of all students. The Random Validation Indicator for 2021 through 2022 is aligned with the Title IV program intent and purpose. Documenting overall compliance for a program requirement may require several forms of documentation to be maintained locally and available upon request by TEA and/or an auditor. To ensure overall compliance with program requirements, LEAs should refer to the program guide and/or other program-related resources that reference the multiple forms of documentation required to be maintained locally. The documentation requested for submission during the random validation process may not include all forms of documentation that are required to be maintained locally. Please note, due to COVID-19, documentation for virtual meetings is an acceptable form of documentation. Given the increased use of virtual meeting environments, participant rosters that include the meeting title, meeting date, and stakeholder names and roles would be acceptable substitutes for the more traditional sign-in sheets. This eliminates the need of a participant signature. For the 2021 through 2022 school year, the Title IV Part A random validation is for randomly selected LEAs to provide a detailed description of the programs and activities which are supported with program funds. LEAs should review the 2021 through 2022 Random Validation Handbook for the Title IV Part A validation requirement, description of the Title IV Part A funded programs and activities, additional guidance, and submission instructions. LEAs will complete applicable sections of the submission packet, include relevant documentation, and follow the Random Validation Handbook instructions to upload documents through the ESA Reports application on TEAL no later than November 12, 2021. The ESA Title IV Part A, Section 4106 E1 A through D provides the citation for the description of Title IV Part A funded programs and activities. And it states, each application submitted by an LEA or a consortium of such agencies shall include the following: descriptions. A description of the activities and programs that the LEA or consortium of agencies will carry out under this part, including a description of any partnership with an institution of higher education, business, nonprofit organization, community-based organization, or other public or private entity with a demonstrated record of success in implementing activities under this part. If applicable, how funds will be used for activities related to supporting well-rounded education under Section 4107. If applicable, how funds will be used for activities related to supporting safe and healthy students under Section 4108. If applicable, how funds will be used for activities related to supporting the effective use of technology in schools under Section 4109. Assurances relating to this specific Title IV Part A indicator are found in the ESA Consolidated Application, Program-Specific Provisions and Assurances under Title IV, listed as number 11. And that assurance states, the LEA will provide a description of programs and activities funded to support the program objectives and intended outcomes related to a well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and the effective use of technology. On the 2021 through 2022 LEA Compliance Report, one of the LEA Program Compliance Self-Check Indicators requires that the LEA provides a detailed description of programs and activities funded with Title IV Part A to support the program objectives and intended outcomes related to a well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and the effective use of technology. To meet the validation requirement, the LEA must provide relevant pages of the most current LEA's District Improvement Plan of activities or other official auditable documentation providing a detailed description on how Title IV Part A funds will be used for activities supporting one of the content areas: well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, or the effective use of technology. Submit specific and relevant pages which support only one content area. The LEA must submit only the relevant pages of the most current district's improvement plan of activities or other official auditable documentation with a detailed description of how funds support one of the content areas. If additional documentation is submitted that is not aligned with the random validation item, TEA may discover additional areas in which the LEA is not compliant and then must follow up. Issues that may result in an improvement needed status are auditable documentation requested was not submitted, documentation submitted does not provide a detailed description of the programs and activities supported in content areas, documentation submitted does not align to the requested documentation of programs and activities requested, documentation from a prior year was submitted instead of the current year documentation. This is the timeline for LEAs selected for random validation. Selected LEAs will be notified on October 4th, 2021. The deadline for an LEA to submit documentation through ESA reports is on November 12th. The LEA will receive notification of validation results on April 26, 2022. ESC staff will contact the LEA and provide technical assistance from the start date of the LEA notification, October 4th, through November 11th. This presentation is intended solely to provide general information and guidance to Texas ESEs, LEAs, private nonprofit school officials, and other applicable stakeholders, and reflect the Texas Education Agency's current understanding of the ESA statute and applicable federal guidance. The content of this presentation is subject to change as a result of further potential information and guidance provided by federal agencies with regulatory oversight of ESA programs. This presentation does not constitute legal advice, and participants are therefore advised to seek legal counsel regarding the information and guidance provided in this presentation before acting on such information and guidance. This concludes the presentation. The contact information is listed below. If you have additional questions, you may send an email to esasupport@teatexas.gov. Thank you and have a wonderful day.